All right. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited to share our most popular approach to asset management in Office 365 in Teams. Now, before we get started today, just a little housekeeping. We definitely want to make this as interactive as possible. So we don't want to talk at you. That's not the idea here. So don't be shy. Go ahead and use that question box in the GoToWebinar panel. And yes, I see questions are already coming in. There will be a recording, so you don't have to worry about taking notes. You'll get all of this. And lastly, we will be focusing on a high-level discussion today, but we're happy to schedule a one-on-one meeting with you if you'd like to talk about how this might work for your specific organization and see a bit more. There's a lot that we could get into, but we'll just keep it brief today. Now, with that in mind, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so we are Crow Canyon, the creators of Nitro Studio. We are a Microsoft preferred business application, and we're GSA certified as well. We've provided and developed solutions in the SharePoint and Office 365 arena for hundreds of companies globally. So we know a thing or two about what we do. And my name, by the way, is Krista White. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Crow Canyon. And I'm joined today by Jeff Priest, our COO, and James Restivo, our VP of Product Development. All right. Now, here at Crow Canyon, our specialty is helping businesses succeed with Office 365, Teams, and SharePoint. And we provide business solutions for innovative out-of-the-box solutions. That's our specialty. And as I mentioned, we are also the creators of no-code Nitro Studio forms and workflows. You may have heard of us. Nitro it's an adaptable application creation platform. So it can really do just about anything you need it to. And we also provide advanced chatbots and apps from MS Teams to help power productivity and take your organization to the next level. And now one last thing I should also note, all of our products run in Office 365, including GCC and GCC High, as well as SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019, and SE. And one last thing to point out before we jump into it, Nitro Studio integrates with a wide range of third-party software and processes. So we have some pre-built applications you can purchase directly from us, but this is just to give you an idea of some of the various solutions that we cover. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into it and talk to Jeff about the why. Jeff, why did we build this in Office 365?
So, Krista, thanks for the intro. Yeah, so what I want to cover is a couple things. One is who we are and why we built this, why we develop anything in Office 365 and SharePoint, but also talk specifically about our topic today as covering asset tracking, asset management. So starting with the why in SharePoint Office 365 as well, we just have expertise and specialty in building applications, initially in the SharePoint environment for the last, more than almost 2 decades, right, of building applications in the Microsoft ecosystem. SharePoint was our platform of choice. Office 365, of course, then becomes sort of the new and exciting platform in which we can kind of expand our development and increase our sort of value to our customers. So the why is now, and especially within Office 365, is SharePoint being this collaborative environment. Office 365 has now become sort of this place in which we live. Using Teams to communicate, both chat, via video, etc. Not to mention productivity, things we can do. We can surface, for example, a form. Somebody has an issue with an asset, and we can surface a form through Teams in which they can simply submit a ticket saying, hey, I have an issue with my laptop, or hey, I have a problem with X, Y, or Z, or hey, my refrigerator is not working. Whatever it might be, it's an environment that we already work in day to day. It's not another third-party app that we have to go out and log into. So that said, we have deep expertise. We've been building asset management and tracking solutions for our customers based on kind of a framework And we have customers that, that are on the facility side, on the IT help desk side, that are managing maybe perhaps a fleet of vehicles. And so there's various sort of use cases for this. So what we want you to do is kind of keep in mind that, asset tracking is any type of asset, whether it's a soft asset, hard asset that you might have with some value, that you want to manage. Now, so the benefits, if we look at the benefits of asset tracking, we still find a lot of our customers, they call us and they're doing this in a spreadsheet, which is fine. But spreadsheet's not a systematic way, or provides any opportunity to drive automation into that system. It's something that really needs to manage closely. It's easy for things to fall through the cracks. So if we look at just sort of the benefits of asset tracking, it's to gain visibility, right? What's out there, who has it? Maybe even the idea of loss prevention. What is it going to cost the company? I can tell you right now, one sort of high-end laptop would cover a lot of the cost of actually getting some of this stuff in place. So it wouldn't take too many assets to disappear for you to cover the cost of the system. So loss prevention being one. The other is life cycle management. So understanding, what is the life cycle of the asset? When did we purchase it? When do we think we want to retire this asset? And that helps with a couple things. One is just understand at some point when you're fixing it, hey, look, it's at the end of its life cycle, it's time to replace it. The other is budgeting, understanding from a budgetary standpoint, if we're going to forecast budget out 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, perhaps 10 years plus down the road, is, how long does a water heater last? What's the life cycle of a water heater? And so, a lot of times what happens is people get hit with unexpected expenses simply because they had nothing in place to track or to forecast assets in end of life cycle. Servicing, sometimes you got service cycles, intervals, things you have to do on assets. And so it's something we can track. We can make sure that we have notifications, dispatch people out to perform those services, etc. Warranties, warranty management, understanding what is the warranty on these devices. Can we use that warranty if we have an issue? Can we extend that warranty? We get, and so all this behind the scenes and all these things is really the automation of notifications to people to let you know, hey, this is up for warranty. There's also dashboards and reporting that can tell you all this stuff. We also, and speaking of dashboards and reporting, it's really the data that for us that kind of proves the value of the system and ensures that you drive some ROI. If you're trying to convince your boss and, hey, look, I want to spend this money, the truth is this is actually going to save you money. It's going to save you a lot of money in various ways. And so that's sort of our message to our customers is, look, this is something that is, yes, it's a capital expense. You get a piece of software you got to buy, or maybe it's it's something that you're thinking, considering. Really, the ROI is a pretty clear story that you can pitch to your management team. Driving customer satisfaction, you help them quicker. You don't have to ask them a ton of questions about the assets because it's all in front of you. And ultimately, it's about peace of mind, just knowing that we have things covered. So what we want to do is now kind of looking at those benefits of all these things, that a systematic approach to asset management, what that might be. I want to jump right into the demo and show you what is it and what can it do for you, and what does the system look like. I think that's all what you guys are all waiting to see. So let me turn it over to James. He's our resident expert and from a technology side and in the product. He's our head of product development. And so let me turn it right over to James and let him show you what it is.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. Yeah, really excited to show you what we have here with this asset management tool in SharePoint. We want to touch on all the points that Jeff was making about it being a worthy investment with a great ROI. Like I said, a couple assets go missing, it more than pays for itself to retain those assets and keep them tracked. And so what I want to show you is how those assets are tracked, how those all the information you can track about those assets, and just the various features that we do have in the system. And certainly if there's anything you want to take a look at in more detail, or if you have any questions, I already told Jeff he has free reign to interrupt me with any questions that come in from the questions box. We're not going to save them all to the end. If they're relevant to our current discussion, we'll go ahead and talk about them. So certainly feel free to ask a question at any point in time. We can talk about things in more detail. So this tool is designed, what I'm showing you today is kind of from the IT side, but also to Jeff's point earlier, can be used for equipment that is physical and on site or on location. But we can also use it for IT equipment as well. So it's got kind of both sides of the coin there, and certainly has a lot of configuration options, a lot of customization options to address both those worlds. Right, so you can see we're talking, we do have something about software assets here, but we can talk about, that wouldn't be there for the equipment side of things, right? So we kind of bridge both worlds with this tool. But importantly, whatever kind of asset it is, whether it's a hard asset, soft asset, vehicle, HVAC system, whatever it might be, there's going to be some commonalities and common things that you want to track, and that's what we've captured here with our data capture form, where you have the information that you want to track. So I'm going to open up a new one here that shows you just what you can put in here. And I'll open up one that is already filled out as well, just so you can see how the data looks when it's filled out. So first of all, you got asset ID, where you can track your assets. You can give it a title, you can give it a description. Then you got some information about the asset itself, like what type of asset it is, what category of asset, make and model number, barcode number. Barcoding is a big piece of this, where you can track your barcodes related to your assets. You can, I'll show you in a little bit later how you can even create assets via barcode, or even update assets by blipping the barcode. That's a big part of it, is that we have that possibility with the barcode integration. And you can use any kind of barcode scanner for that. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. But you've got, kind of unique identifiers for this asset, serial number, different things like that, contract service date, and importantly, where is it located? Right, so where is it assigned to, what location, what building, what room? So we've got that location information, so you can identify where it is. Of course, it's all updatable. If you find that it's moved locations, then you can always update that information down the road. We also track different things about the finances around the asset. So this is a big part of it, where you can see how much was spent on it, when was that spent, what's the depreciation life, when is it going to be replaced? So you can track a lot of things on that side of it, where you know that your assets are coming to end of life, right? So that's that end of life cycle that we're talking about, where you can see you have X number of assets coming to end of life, your replaceable life, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it might be for the particular asset. You want to start a plan to replace that. So you can see that out in the future, because if you put your dates in here, your depreciable life over X number of years, you can track that and see when those assets need to be replaced, and that helps with planning and budgetary setup for upcoming fiscal years. But yeah, not only can you see how much when it's going to be end of life, but also how much was it purchased for, where was it purchased, when was it purchased, and who was purchased from, right? So there's a vendor's piece of this as well, where you can track who you bought it from originally, and maybe you want to track it with someone different, or buy it from someone different now, and so all that stuff, all that history can be there about the asset, so you can see see what's going on with it. And from this just gives you a way to have an image of the asset if you wanted to show what it looks like. And then maintenance is a really big part of this as well, right? So you want to maintain your assets, and you want to make sure that you're giving them the service they need. This might be on a schedule, bi-weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever it might be. You want to have tasks created automatically for your assets, so that you can track what the maintenance is. You can track how much the maintenance costs, and you can see how much that asset has cost you over the length of its time, right? So you can see, you can see how much the like break fix tickets might cost. You can see how much the preventive maintenance tickets might cost. So you can put that in here. So the idea behind the maintenance here is that you can have that automatically created on those schedules I talked about, weekly, bi-weekly, but you could also have break fix tickets in here. And one of the things in this tool as well is that you have a connection over to, you could have a connection over to our work order tool. Like Jeff was saying, you can pull up a work order form in your Teams, or you can pull it up in a SharePoint, in a portal in SharePoint. And what that's going to do is allow you to submit tickets, or allow your users to submit tickets about your assets, so that you can track, who submitted the ticket, what was it about. You can track all those tickets and the costing around those tickets as well. So you do have a way to do your preventive maintenance, but also break fix tickets with the connection over to work orders. So you have all that available for tracking that, and that's clear. You can't do that in Excel very easily to see how many tickets were created and what the costs were over time. And one of the things that it connects that is really great about it is this connection over to manuals, connection over to warranties, connection over to contracts. So all that stuff can be tracked as far as what the manual is that will be useful for your technicians who need to go service those assets, whatever the asset might be. Warranties, again, is kind of the same idea of when is that warranty expiring? It may not be the depreciable life. Your might project out 5 years, this thing is going to keep working, but the warranty only covers the first 2 or 3 of those years, and you can see when that expires so that you can then plan to either extend the warranty or make a plan to live without the warranty, whatever you need to do. But you'll see that because one warranty could be associated with multiple assets, right? So you could have, let's say, buy a batch of like 10 dishwashers or something, and they all have the same warranty. You can connect them all together, and that's really one of the powers here is all these connections between the different sources of data, right? So you got the warranties, you got the contracts, you got the manuals, and can bring them all into one place and see them all together in your one asset record. We also have places to see this stuff on their own too, right? So you can see the manuals, you can see the warranties and the contracts all on their own. Now let me pull up a asset that's already created. And I show you one of the things we have here with this check-in and check-out feature, which I think is really important to track where your assets are located, right? So you have your asset record, but who actually owns it? So you could have a generic location, a general location, like it's in our main office, it's in our, it's in Benicia, California, it's in Boston, Massachusetts, wherever it might be. But you want to know specifically who is it assigned to and or who it's checked out to. So it's another level of tracking that asset and seeing where it's located and who has it. And with our tool, we make that really easy with the check-in, check-out feature, where you can see that this is checked in right now. So we have a check out button. So we could check this out to a user, and then we know that it's going to be checked out to, let's just go and put my name in there for now. And then we can see when we can expect it back. So you'll have those check-in, check-out records, and you'll be able to tell what are my assets that are out there and when do I expect to get them back in? And this goes back to what Jeff was talking about, your loss prevention. So it was checked out to James, it was checked out today. We can say, it's going to be today that was checked out. And we expect it back by the end of the month because, maybe he has I have a particular project where I need this particular computer to work on it, and it's going to be checked out. So we get that created in the system where now we have a record that says it was checked out to James on this date, checked out on today. Can put the time in there, and then when we expect it back in. So we're going to have a view in here too, where you can see all those items that are checked out and when you expect them back in, so you can track and say, hey, he never returned that item. I need to go follow up with James to find out what happened to it. So it does help you. It gives accountability in that sense too. So you have that accountability of who owns it, who has it. Ultimately, it could say IT department owns the asset, but then it's checked out to James for X period of time, right? So then you'll notice that after the checkout, now we have a check-in button, and actually we're not going to check that one out. We're going to check this one back in and do it on a different item, and we can just say returned in good condition, something like that, and you make some notes in here to get that back in, right? So you have that record, you have that check-in, check-out, you see the history of it as well. So you can see, okay, it was checked back in on this date, it was checked in, who was checked out to and when it came back. So you got all that information, which is great for tracking where your assets are located, who has them, who's responsible for them. So you got all that data that you can manage in here and update and use in here.
Hey, James, real quick to interrupt. So we have some questions coming in. I just want to address them as they're coming in. One is data population from Active Directory. So if the some asset information that exists in Active Directory, can we populate that from AD?
Yeah, so we can connect. We have a AD API that we can connect over to Azure AD and bring information into the site. Usually we bring it based on a person, but if you have asset data, we want to take a look at that specifically. But there is, because we're in 365, we're on SharePoint on-prem as well, but we're in the SharePoint space. We do have that connection over to Active Directory already there. So these people, like my name that came up in the form is coming from Active Directory. So we already have that connection going on. So it seems like it would be pretty easy to get that additional information here or information about the asset. And that actually kind of segues, and Jeff, if there's any other questions, maybe before I segue into the other thing.
Yeah. So one other question here, just while we're here and talking about the related items, is if there's a contract that's associated with, like in your case, dishwashers, we got 20 dishwashers under one single contract. Can you explain, and I know the answer, but can you explain, is that contract have to be connected to every asset record, or is there some single source, contract doc that then that they're connecting to?
Oh, great question. Yeah, there's one single source contract doc that would then be connected over to each of those assets, and so you can see in this form here, if I open up a edit form of this contract that's in our system, is the the assets that are related to it, right? So you got this. You can go search your assets and add them to this list. So I think we had some AirPods in there. I know it's probably not a realistic scenario, but let's just go ahead and add that because I know that's an asset we have. So now this contract is automatically connected to both of these assets. So you have one single source for your contract, and then it can connect out to as many assets as you deem necessary. So
can you save that and then go back to the record and show what it looks like actually in the record, not in the edit?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me save this, and I'll go back over to my Dell Vostro, which I think is the same one that I got pulled up here. There's a couple of them. So let me just check this one first. And it is probably going to be the other one, but let me look at the AirPods because I know I connected that one. Yeah, there you go. So now you've got that contract in there. So not only can you see the contract link, but you can also see what other assets that contract is related to. So that's that one lease, one agreement, whatever it is, a document that you've put in the system is connected over to as many assets as you need it to be. And so you can see that from both the contract perspective, which asset is it connected to, and the asset perspective is which contractor contracts are related to it. So you could have an asset that falls under multiple contracts. That's fine. We can handle that.
Great. So we're talking this maintenance tab, just a couple tabs over there. So question about maintenance. Now, I'm going to read it because we'll interpret it real quick. So sorry that I know. So we have this, if maintenance dates 10 days before, any alert, mail, or SMS received. So my assumption, I guess, interpreting that is, is there a way that, there's a maintenance coming up? Are we sending out an alert or some SMS message to notify somebody that maintenance is coming due? I'm hoping I'm interpreting that properly. If not, please clarify.
Yeah, I think I'll answer the question as it was presented. Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a task that's coming up, now we can create these on a schedule. So you could create your tasks monthly or weekly or whatever it might be, and then there's going to be dates, like a due date around that. So you can capture those due dates and say, okay, I have these assets that are coming, or these tasks that are coming due within a certain time frame. You can send a notification, a week before that date. And that's something we have in our workflow tool. That's part of what's powering this is the whole Nitro Studio tool set with the forms. You're kind of seeing how we can lay out these forms in different ways. Don't get me started on that because I'll get into Nitro. But the due date, a column can be used to say, send a notification 10 days before, 30 days before, 7 days, whatever you need it to be. You can send out those notifications. That would apply to all the tasks that you have in here. So, and then your assigned to person, of course, would be identified there as well. Again, because we're using Active Directory as a connection, you have the due date, you have who it's supposed to go to. We can use our Nitro workflows to then dynamically send those emails to the assigned to individuals based on the due date of that task. So absolutely, yeah, you can get notifications ahead of time of those tasks coming due.
Great, thanks, James.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so what I was kind of segueing into there was the creation of the assets. How do we get this data into the system? And there's a couple different ways you can do that. Now, if you're managing your assets through Excel, or if you can get an Excel export from existing database, that's easy to pull that in. So we have a few different ways we can do that, where we can take the export from Excel and add that into the system. That's kind of a quick way to do it. Of course, there's always the option of manually entering the data, which, depending on the number of assets, could be tedious. So there's those two ways to do it, but then there's also connections we have over to, like for IT assets specifically, we can connect over to network sweeping tools such as Landsweeper, Intune. We have native Intune connection and the SCCM connections, that we can bring the data in from those tools with a data sync service. So we can actually bring that information in and live in Intune, but also live over here for tracking those, maybe break fix tickets, maintenance costs, things they don't normally or wouldn't be able to track in like the sweeping tool like SCCM or Landsweeper that you would want to track in about your asset, depreciable life, when's it's going to expire, what contracts are associated with it. Those things, that's what you get with our tool that you wouldn't necessarily get with those other tools. But you can maintain that connection so that it's all there. And if you have another database where you're capturing your data and you want to maintain that as well, we can certainly connect over to it and take a look at doing that, because we have, as we were showing earlier, we have a lot of those integrations with Nitro, and so we can take a look at your specific tool that you're using and create a connection to bring the data and bring the information in to manage it. But another way, kind of to augment the manual process, let's say you do have to do it manually, we have this barcode connection where we can use any kind of barcode scanner. It could be your phone. You could use your phone as a barcode scanner, or you could use a WASP barcode scanner, or some scanning device, whatever you choose to use. We have these, and I'm just going to pop over to a different site where we have this configured. You have this ability to, potentially create assets, or change statuses, or do some actions. Essentially, you have some kind of action you can take. And, in the vein of what I'm talking about is the ability to create the assets where you can go and say, okay, I have all these assets in my room. Okay, blip 1, blip 2, blip 3, whatever it is, you can get, as you blip them, you'll get the barcode numbers in here. And you can create some templates of which you can create all sorts of different templates. We just have 2 here, but you can create as many templates as you need to. And what you're going to be able to do then is create those assets. So let's say we come in here, we blip our 4 or 5 assets, whatever we have, and then we click a button to create them, and that's going to loop through and create an item for each one of those assets, right? So now it's going through the process, it's creating those items. And those are going to be automatically added to our asset register in this site, which is the equipment register, as a matter of fact. And you'll see that. So let me go ahead and open the equipment. Let me look at all equipment. And we should, been demoing this a lot, so I think it's got a lot in here. But let me go over here. It should, it created these assets. Let's see, this should have been created today. Yeah, 10/6/22, that's today, just now, 11:58. Yeah, sometime. Not sure what time zone it's using, but that's the asset. So it's got the records, it's got the, some other information. So based on that template, you could go in here and have as pre-fill as much or as little data as you need to with the different templates that you can create for the equipment or for the asset. So that gives you another way to augment your manual creation of the assets instead of having to go through and type in all the data. If you have some common assets, like let's say our dishwashers, for example, they're all a certain make of dishwasher, they're a certain model of dishwasher. You can create a template for that, and then that would automatically load into the system. So you can see there's different ways that can happen in different templates and different types, asset types and whatnot that you can use to get your assets into the system. So it's all about trying to make it easy, trying to make it automated, trying to make it as simple as possible, get the data in there. And once the data is there, of course, you can do all the things we were talking about. We're tracking location, tracking financials, tracking contracts. The contract piece of it is a big part because you got these expirations on there, right? So based on that expiration, going back to the notifications piece of it, you can get workflows in our system to send notifications based on those dates. It could be, again, it could be 30, 60, 90 days before that date. It could be all three. Get a notification every 30, every time for each one of those contracts. That can be done on the warranties. That can be done on depreciable life of the asset. So you can get the data in and out of the system in a bunch of different ways. And part of that is the reporting tool that we have as well, where you can see it on our kind of main assets dashboard here, where you have some reports, pre-built reports. We've got some metrics up here that we can pull out of the system. How many active assets? How many assets total? What are their assets by category? And different reports that we have here. But we could also go over to our report center, and we have some pre-built ones that we ship out of the box, but you can certainly go and create additional reports and get the data out of the view. It doesn't all have to be pie charts, of course. It could be bar charts, or something like this, area chart, bar charts, column charts, all sorts of different charts. And it could be charts, could be tables, but you can display this information either go to the report center and look at it over here, or you could put it onto one of your SharePoint pages so you can view it. So you could create like a management dashboard where they can go and see all the information about the assets, where they located, who they assigned to. We have assets by location, but we could also have a report in here for assets by user, right? So you could see all the assets for a particular user, and that's really important for a lot of reasons. Let's say you're promoting someone and you want to, I'll use the positive example, you're promoting someone and you want to capture all the assets that they currently have and maybe see if they need more. Maybe they're promoting to a position that needs a cell phone. Okay, we can see they don't have one assigned to them. Okay, let's go and get that assigned. So you can see that data and kind of slice it and dice it in different ways that gives you the information you need to take action. There's also, another way to do this is to search the assets. So we could search assets. This is another way to do it, where we could use this advanced filter and say show me all assets where assigned to equals, I'm just going to put myself in here because I know I assigned myself one. All right, I was going to say the filter. So you can save the filter and use that, or you could just update on the fly. It doesn't matter. But then you click search, it didn't pull me up. Okay. But you hit search, and then it'll pull in all the assets for that user, for that individual. So if you wanted to go get all the assets for a particular person for whatever reason, you've got the search assets feature where you can go and get that data for that person, or multiple people or departments. Yeah.
As we're talking about locations, and this is actually a great question. And maybe what we can do is talk a little bit about sort of asset journey and kind of on the multi-location or any scenario that would require multi-location. The question is this: is the system, is it customizable, or is there default settings? Because they said we have 11 properties. How do we add assets based on the property, right? So can you discuss that real quick, as that's a fairly important question?
Yeah, absolutely. That could be one of the it's all very customizable and configurable. And so this form is using the Nitro Forms tool set, where you can go and add fields that you need to. So if you're not seeing what you need out of the box, or you want to change the terminology, you can certainly do that, right? So if you wanted to have a property field instead of like department or location, location could be property or not. You can just add it in as a drop down or as a lookup. And that way you can get that record, get that data on the record, and then you can go and use it in reports. You can use it in searching the assets. You can use it in a variety of ways to get the information. And if you want to track for that, one of your 11 properties, you can certainly have a view or different ways to see this. I mean, SharePoint has one of the benefits, one of the reasons we like to use this tool is that the list views have a lot of different options and what you can filter on, right? So you can see all your assets here, right? Or you could see checked out assets, we can see in-service assets, we can see inactive assets if we had any. But you can certainly create other views here, and all 11 of your properties should just be different tabs you have across the top. So you can see property 1, here are all the assets. Property 2, here are all the assets. It's not configured for this particular list view, but there could be an export to Excel from here. So if you wanted to export that information to Excel for a report or for whatever reason, you could do that and have that available. And then with those views, you can also create those different reports I was just showing you earlier. We could track by, okay, here are the assets by property, here are all the assets in property 1, assets in property 2, how many you have, right? You could have like 100 in this property and 300 in this other property, whatever it might be.
So James, also just kind of add to that, says we're looking at list views, and so we don't really have a good sort of a showing of what that is for you. But I mean, one is when you have a long list, especially if you have a lot of assets, if you have a long list, for us, of course, you can continue to filter, but you can also create, as James was mentioning, these dashboards where you have a dashboard for a particular property and which would also include assets by type. So then you can drill down, and so it becomes a really easy way to manage those assets. And this could be a dashboard for per property, for example. The other question I have here is there is this idea of creating assets. Can you create assets from a text file containing maybe a unique identifier like an asset ID or a barcode number? Can you create those assets from a text file?
Out of the box, I don't know if we could do it just straight out of the box, but I know that I believe that would be possible to create a way to do that, and I don't think it'd be a heavy lift to make that happen.
And you can also simply copy and paste into a spreadsheet, right? An Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, absolutely. You can copy and paste in an Excel spreadsheet, but that's one of the benefits of our solution too, is that we don't just give you the product and walk away, right? We're there to support you getting up and running with it. So if you have needs like that, if you have unique situations or things that aren't quite covered out of the box, we're happy to work with you to get those addressed. Like if you happen to have text files for your assets, yeah, we can work with you. We can get that into the system. Whatever it needs to be, we can work. We want to meet you where you are. So this is, I think it was Jeff was saying earlier, this is built with years of experience. So this is what we commonly see for assets and how they're tracked, but certainly can be adjusted to your needs. We're talking about the form location, locations could be adjusted. The form can be moved around to maybe make it more relevant for your particular scenario. I just kind of give you some examples of that. And we took, basically, just a quick example, we took this product, this asset management tool, and we made it available for, kind of create this other, asset journey site, which we use for retirement villages in Australia. And it kind of shows the breadth of what you can do with the asset management tools, that you can go and create it for specific needs like this. And we have this built out for for them specifically, for meeting certain legislative requirements that they have in New South Wales, that it is really helps those customers meet the needs of the legislation, where we have custom reports that are created. This is the type of thing we do. We make these tools work for your organization, and we want to make sure it's successful for your organization. So we can, whether it's an asset site that we build off, equipment site we build off of, or asset journey site or retirement villages, we can modify these things, just these things, and make it work for your scenario. That's the power of having the Nitro tool set behind it as well. And we find SharePoint to be really flexible and configurable in a lot of ways. Nitro Studio just adds and compounds on that to make it really really powerful to run different solutions. And you see we have all these different solutions that we sell, all created kind of on SharePoint and also through Nitro Studio. So that's part of what we offer here, as part of what the whole think of it is that you can make it yours, you can make it your own.
James, real quick, so midstream, I know we're midstream here. I wanted to make an intro. We had someone join from part of our team that I wanted to introduce that can answer questions moving forward. So Scott, he's our resident expert with all things sort of SharePoint, Office 365, as well as our tools. And so just to mix it up as we move forward, keep the questions coming. It creates an interesting conversation as we're going through this demo. So Scott's here with us, and he'll join us in answering questions moving forward.
Oh, hi there. Yeah, I've been answering them by text. Just typing in the answers to anybody who had a question.
Super. Yeah, we'll continue to do that as well. So as well as address them in live. So, all right, James.
Good. Yeah. That pretty much covers the different things you can do here, the various options they have, you can make it look like, you know, the asset journey site. You could do kind of have it, make it your own over here. You can track, you know, just kind of briefly mention this concept of software assets if you're in the IT world, and even if you're using the like SCCM or Landsweeper or something like that, we can go and manage those assets, and that can help you with asset with the soft assets, the licenses, make sure you're in compliance, make sure that you're getting what you need. But, you know, see, it's got all these great tools in it. It's got all this power with the contract management, with the you know, vendor. You have your list of vendors, kind of vendor management in a sense. If you're using IT assets, you could also track your software assets. But certainly, you know, as you see, it can be used for computers, it can be used for hardware, it can be used for vehicles, it can be used for, you know, dishwashers, the one I keep harping on. It can be used for appliances or physical assets that aren't necessarily networked or technical assets at all. And you know, it can go from, you know, large scale items, and, you know, the granularity of it is really up to you. If you want to track every paper clip you have, I mean, you could do that if you really wanted to. But, you know, obviously that's probably a little overkill. But the scale of it, that's the joy of it, is the scale of it is really up to you, and how you can use it, and how it's going to best serve your needs. Just to throw some other customizations we've done in there. We've done inventory management as something we've added on into this, where you can track, you know, if something's going below a certain number of items in the stock room, you can, you know, you connect this over to our purchase order system, or if you're using purchase request system on your own, we could connect over to that and create a PO or release a purchase request to buy more of that item that's out of stock. So there's a lot of different ways that this can be used, a lot of different ways it has been used by our customers over the years. And it's really, you know, it really, you know, really solves that immediate need of, like, saying, where are my assets, who do they belong to, how much are they costing me, when do we need to replace those? But in addition to all that, you can also customize it to even further granularly take take control of where your assets are, where they're located, and you know, manage the whole life cycle of that asset, as we showed with the different date fields in there, different ways they can calculate that depreciable life. I mean, that's something I didn't really talk about, is that you could calculate that depreciable life of an asset based on the purchase date, and what the end of life cycle might be could be based on asset type. And something I didn't really get into is asset type, but, you know, there's always more to cover, and there's always more to learn.
Well, I can inject a few things here if you want.
Yeah. If you want, feel free.
Yeah, so just to kind of, James has been showing a lot of, James and Jeff, Chris have been showing a lot of very interesting things here. Just want to make an important point that we have the IT asset management program, which works with our help desk very closely. And that's really focused on computers, routers, servers, laptops, monitors, all the computer equipment. And then we have an equipment tracking, which takes a little different approach, because it's more about physical pieces of equipment, things that might be in a facility or factory floor, or vehicles and things like that are not networked. You know, IT assets are usually on a network, whether they're in inventory and service or deployed to the network. So they're treated differently than the equipment. The equipment has a lot more with preventative and recurring and reactive maintenance going on related to work orders. So kind of two very similar systems, but they have different orientations of how you're managing the assets. And like James was saying, the IT assets can pull in information from the network discovery tools, Landsweeper, SCCM, or whatever, and integrate it into a whole kind of ITSM package with our IT help desk, the asset management. Also, purchasing of the assets is a part too. You can bring a purchasing module in, so that when you buy the asset, it's goes through a purchasing request process, and then is brought into the asset system. It might have to go through some initial setup, load something on the piece of software, load some software on the computer or whatever, and then deploy it to wherever it is. And we, a lot of times we have customers who might buy 10 or even 50 laptops at once. So like James was showing you, the barcode actions where blip, 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 and then you press the button and it creates all those assets. Or alternatively, having a spreadsheet or a text file that can be turned into a CSV, that can bring it in to the asset system. Also can export it out either way, in or out, which brings me to the topic of integration that's been asked a lot here about APIs. connecting to ServiceNow, connecting to other systems. All that's possible because underlying both our asset program and our equipment tracking program is our Nitro Studio with all its workflows, forms, custom actions, and many, many other capabilities in there, including, if you're on Office 365, what we call the Nitro Engage bot, a Teams app that runs in your teams, and you could look up assets or you make a purchase request through it. And of course, you can do a lot more than that, any kind of business function like leave request, but that's not the topic of today. You can create an IT ticket, all those different things with the Nitro Engage bot. So Teams is very much integrated with this package if you're on Office 365 there. So showing there's a wide range of possibilities. The Nitro Studio, James, did you go into Nitro Studio at all? How it is powering all this up? Because people were asking about customization, they're asking about APIs, workflows, notifications. Just want to make people aware that there's this whole underlying powerhouse of capabilities that is powering up our asset management, our equipment tracking, in fact, all our applications. And some people go ahead and just get what you could call almost raw Nitro Studio for their tenant or for their farm and start building their own applications. Of course, it's a lot of work to go build a whole asset management one, and there's no sense in it since we provide it, but other people do kind of one-off programs, replace InfoPath, legacy forms, that kind of thing with Nitro Studio. But at the same time, it's powering up our applications. So you can look here about Nitro Studio is available for this application, and you can go modify the asset form quite easily, or create a new workflow, or to create an API, not create an API, but utilize a web service or API, or even can launch a Power Automate flow. I mean, we consider ourselves an alternative to Power Platform, in a way a better solution for a lot of reasons, but we also are free to integrate with Power Automate, so you can launch a flow and that does a Power Automate. Say a Power Automate has a connector to ServiceNow, so maybe just utilize that, right? Or use the API, whatever works. Or we can also work with external databases quite easily. So since people are asking about customization, APIs, integrations, I want to make sure that we show that Nitro Studio has all that power. You want to show a little of that before we end, James?
Yeah. So that's fine. Yeah, I was gonna kick back over to Krista for closing, but before we do that, so I want to address any open questions out of there, but to touch on the Nitro Studio piece of it real quick, Scott's absolutely right. This is all very customizable, configurable to your needs. So I was talking about adding in a property field, like a choice field earlier, so we could easily do that. But you can see it's got this drag and drop interface that makes it, and this is only going to be available for certain users in your organization. It's not going to be available to everyone, of course, right? So you want to control who has access to it. But you can see you can drag, I just dragged it over, put it on my form. I can get rid of it. I can move things around. I can add sections. I can add tables. I can do all sorts of stuff here to the form to make it look different, or meet your needs, whatever those might be. If you have a particular format that you need to put in place, so certainly all that's possible. And to touch on the workflow piece, you can see we've got the maintenance calendar here for creating maintenance. We're using the workflows for that. But you can really use this to create any kind of workflow, say based on a date and time. So we talked about that a lot during this conversation. Where let's just go ahead. We might have one already, but let's go ahead and create one from scratch here for this contracts, where you can use that renewal date of the contract and send an email some number of days or however long before. So this could be going to the settings of it. Of course, we got to give it a name of some kind, but based on the expiration date, we can say it's going to be let's say just give a number 9 days, weeks, whatever it is before. So now this workflow will run 10 days before this expiration date, and what that's going to do is send an email. So we could then add a send mail action to do that. So that's going to be your notification power, so you can build all sorts of notifications into the tool as needed. But the specific question about APIs is we have these web services. You can invoke a web service, so you create you can call that API from within the workflow tool, so you can create that connection. And then we also have ability to invoke a workflow, which as Scott was mentioning, could be a Power Automate, or it could be a Nitro workflow, or Power. Here's a Power Automate connection, and you just give the I forget. There's a certain type of way you create it, but a trigger for that workflow, I can't recall off the top of my head, but that would make it available and give you a HTTP URL to call. Things like that. So you can invoke workflows, invoke web services. You can invoke Azure functions if you're using Azure and want to build things on that platform. We can certainly accommodate that as well, right? So you can build your functions with Azure. So we have all these great connections in our tool that it can take the base product that we have, which is really covers a lot of ground, but you can take it a lot further. And that's really the benefit of this tool and doing it with our Nitro Studio. Now, before I kick it back over to Krista, I just wanted to see if there's any other questions we need to address before I do that.
I don't see any, we've answered them all, but we always can talk to people directly with a phone call, do a demo, do a text exchange. Most important is a demo though, to get in, see it, ask your questions one-on-one, and see if it can do this, meet your needs. Everybody's requirements are different. And there's a lot of similarity, but what's interesting about this business is very interesting to see that every organization has different needs. I mean, they want to monitor their assets or their equipment, but they have this, that, or the other thing they integrate with, or number of assets, or different locations, or different, so it's all very, to me, I think other people here in the company find it very interesting to talk with people, find out what the situation is, and see if we can help out to help you get better organized, improve operations, streamline the situation, and drive efficiency. And like Jeff made the point earlier, it's all about saving money and reducing costs and reducing loss. And it's amazing to me. I don't know about you guys, Jeff, James, how this late in the technology world, so many people don't have their assets very well tracked. And it's interesting because that's a cost, that's a loss to the company if the computer, not only if it leaves the company, but if it's not well maintained, it causes more issues down the road because the people can't get their work done, and it's more downtime than needed with an efficient system. So the ROI, Jeff was talking about ROI. It's we see it all the time. I mean, it's like most people who get the system in place say, "Why didn't I do this quite a while ago?" It's really, it's like, well, we're all that way sometimes, right?
That's really true. Yeah, for sure. All correct. So I kicked it back over to Krista to close this out. But yeah, to echo Scott's comments, anytime you if you have any questions that come up, certainly reach out. We're happy to dive deep into a demo specifically with your needs. I'll kick it over to Krista to close this out.
All right. Well, thanks so much, guys. Yeah, that was really great. And I know there is, just like you talked about, there's so much that we can do. And I know we're trying to kind of keep it super high level just to give at least a little sample for everyone. But every organization is different. So we would love to chat with you more if you have any questions. We won't go on for hours right now, but if anyone does have any last minute questions right now, go ahead, get them in. We hope you found this informative today, and we are here to help. We truly enjoy what we do, if you haven't been able to tell already. And just like Scott was saying, and James, we would love to talk to you about your specific needs. So you can actually, if you do have any last minute questions or want to book a demo or anything else, go ahead and you can email James directly at james.restivo@crowcanyon.com, or you can email Jeff directly at jeff.priest@crowcanyon.com, or of course you can call us at 925-478-3110. And you can also request more info on our website. That's crowcanyon.com. And we really appreciate your time today. Don't hesitate to reach out. And thanks again for joining us. We hope you have a great day.
Hold on, there's one more question I'll answer.
All right.
People don't have to stick around for it. They're asking about pricing, cost, separate costs in addition to assets. Okay, let's address that before. I mean, people can leave if they want, but there was a question about cost. Nitro Studio, okay, when we sell an application, it's a SharePoint site, and Nitro Studio is included in that application for your use to use as you wish to modify or customize the program within that site. Nitro Studio is also available for your Office 365 tenant as a tenant-wide license or a SharePoint farm license, but you don't need to buy that to use the application. You only need to buy the application and it comes with it. The idea of the tenant and farm license is if you want to use multiple sites and possibly build your own solutions using the Nitro Studio. Now, as far as the asset management pricing, do we have a screen on that, or do you want to address that directly with sales on that? People have asked about it.
We don't have a screen. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you have that available? Well, basically, it starts at, well, we'll have to talk to sales. I don't want to just shout out a price, because we'll get you in touch there, okay? We'll get sales in touch with you for people asking that question, and pursue it in that way. All I can say is it's reasonably priced, very reasonably priced. How's that? Oh, it also would depend on if you're on SharePoint on premises or Office 365 and that kind of thing. So let's leave that for a direct conversation, okay? All right, hope that explained it. But that was the one last question so far. Thanks.
Well, let me just, guys, last thing, and then we'll get running. But we got pricing on our site. It's pretty straightforward. You know, as a SharePoint on-premises application, we have pricing right there, starting at $6,995. And there is Office 365 and Teams, which is a subscription-based model at $299 a month. I think that it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's not. I think what Scott was trying to say is that we have a number of customers that have a number of different requirements. That's where we start at. It's really clear, straight up, transparent on the site. But I think having a conversation, understand exactly what your specific needs are, is very helpful in understanding, what is it going to take to get there. So please call us, let us know that or just go to the site. You can book a demo there as well. But we'd love to talk to you in more detail about your specific requirements and how we can help.
Okay.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Krista. Okay. Bye-bye for now.